Well, it's Sunday. You can see it's a nice day. Probably about 25 degrees. Only a slight breeze, so I might be in luck for a change to actually do an outdoor walk and talk once again. Had noisy neighbours last night. Some crazy woman. I think this time actually on the bottom floor. There's two apartments below me, and the most immediate one had been a problem, but they seem to be being fairly quiet. The one at the ground floor, though, a couple of nights now, they've had noisy times. Once they went to 1 a.m, which I suppose isn't too bad for a Friday night, I guess. But this time, some crazy woman, it's always a crazy woman, I don't know why, she started up at about 2 a.m. and then I heard a kid as well. So that's not good, you know. Children should be sleeping at that hour, not bloody making noises, and pretty loud. Like I said, I think they weren't just downstairs, they were actually on the ground floor, so they must have been pretty damn noisy, because I had my window shut. That's the sort of crap I'm to put up with, although, look, it may not have disturbed my sleep that much, because I have been waking up in the middle of the night anyway, so got to be philosophical about it. Yeah, there's a lot happening in the world. I've noticed that our mainstream media, which I have total contempt for, have basically endorsed Biden as the president. They're more than keen to do that, and even though there are so many court cases pending, that this election could drag out for a long time, because, well, there is a time limit, because it has to be resolved. I don't know what the time, sometime in December, I can't remember the exact date, but it's been stated in the press. So there is a time limit on it, but it could drag out for weeks. And it's funny, even, of course, the newspapers say there's celebration in the streets. I don't believe a word these people say anymore. They're so corrupt, the mainstream media, that everything they say, there may be a grain of truth to it, but there'd be a hell of a lot of exaggeration on top of it. Also, I noticed Tim Pool's starting to lose his backbone. He was actually he voted for Trump, but now he seems to be abandoning Trump, and now he says he thinks it's going to be funny to have Biden. I don't think there's anything going to be funny about it. It was a strange attitude. And I did post a comment saying that he's one of these people who are fair weather Trump supporters. It's okay when things are going well, but now he seems to have basically lost his desire to actually defend Trump. And I mean, he's never been a huge fan of Trump, admittedly, and I will say that Tim Pool, at least unlike the mainstream media, does admit when he's wrong. So I mean, he's a libertarian, so I've got a bit of sympathy for him, and in the main, I think he does a good job. But he said it himself, he's a milquetoast fence sitter, which he is, and he's exhibiting those qualities right now. Just a bit disappointing. Talking about disappointing, there's a couple of articles in the paper that really worried me. They were in the Daily Mail, which doesn't seem to be doing a great job right at the moment. I was a big rap for them a few weeks back, but they seem to have dropped the ball a bit. They actually had an article about how the restriction on overseas travel in Australia may actually last until the end of next year, and their reasoning behind this is what the RBA is saying. So that's right, the Reserve Bank of Australia. Now, I don't know why they think a hint from the Reserve Bank of Australia is going to necessarily affect foreign policy in Australia. I think it's a bit of a stretch. So I'd actually have to question Daily Mail on this one. I think they're really pushing for a headline, and there's not that much of a story there at all. I mean, it's more hope in my case too. I mean, I can't imagine what it would be like if I couldn't go back to Vietnam for all of next year as well. That's just absurd. And I don't see what the rationale is behind it. I mean, it can't be Corona, because obviously things are a lot better on the Corona front than they were. So what's the story? Is it just about control of the masses? I think a lot of it is a power play. So it is a bit of a worry. There's actually a cop car over there. It's a rarity over in Cairns. You hear them, but I don't see them much. So it's good to see a little bit of police presence. We need a damn sight more of it, but of course nothing will happen in the next 4 years because Anastasia's back in control, and apparently she's continued to have spats with the New South Wales government, and it's getting to be, she's accused of being childish by the press, so even the mainstream media having a go at her. So it's interesting, but yeah, she's having a sparring match with Berejiklian in New South Wales, and you know, I mean, let's just make Australia get rid of these ridiculous border restrictions. I mean, it's not like we're in real danger at the moment with corona. It's just been so blown up by the incredibly corrupt mainstream media. Gee, they've got a lot to answer for. I mean, they really do make me sick. So anyway, this Daily Mail articles about travel coming up with this timetable. I don't believe it. I do believe if they try that on, they could have protests in the streets early next year. I think Australians are getting pretty fed up with not being able to travel because it's something we do in droves, especially overseas. And I don't think it's going to wash. I think it's like Victoria wanting to reimpose lockdowns in like they had in the past. I think that would not go down well right now. I think Victorians just really want their freedom now. I'm hoping that they've got a bit of a backbone and they will rebel if Andrews does what I expect him to do, and that's clamp down hard again, because he's just, like I say, I think he's a bit of a sadist. Just my personal opinion. I know people don't agree with a lot of stuff I say, and that's fine. Oh, by the way, I got, as usual, I got a bit of stick from some lefty saying that I'm running a redneck channel. The interesting thing about this post that I got today on one of my recent videos is that I couldn't reply to it. I wanted to say a few words to him, presumably it was a him, because most of these people, they'll sling mud at you, but if you actually try to have an argument with them, they turn to water. They just cannot make an argument. And it's quite incredible. And they're very good at basically abusing you either with or without expletives, but they can't argue. They can't make a cogent argument in their defence. And it's probably because they've been through our Mickey Mouse education system. Hasn't exactly prepared them for the rigours of life outside. Of course, these days they're all encouraged to be snowflakes. And so that's why it's got to be a groupthink mentality, so you're safe from contagions like myself. It's just pathetic. Anyway, the other article, well, I was actually in the Financial Review, and it was about China's coming down really hard on Australia. Of course, I guess they sense that we've lost our biggest ally, who's Trump. That may or may not be the case, but certainly Biden's an absolute joke, and I think he'd be a Chinese sympathiser, and it's going to be a total waste of 4 years. He won't have much power anyway because the Senate is going to be with the Republicans. So he's going to be a bit of a lame duck president in many respects. I would call him fake president because I don't even think he's legitimate. And of course his legitimacy will be under scrutiny, not by the mainstream media of course, but by real people. And yeah, I think it's going to be pretty interesting to see what happens with Biden, because I mean, I just think he's such a wet blanket compared to Trump, who, if nothing else, is entertaining. So the press are going to miss Trump. I suspect they're going to lose quite a bit of readership because they won't have the boogeyman anymore, and it's going to be boring as hell. And when the midterms come up in 2 years, it's a good thing about America, you know, every 2 years the democracy kicks in, which is not a bad system actually. It'd be good if we had something similar like that in Australia, but unfortunately we don't. But yeah, every 2 years there'll be midterm elections for both the Senate and House of Reps, and that's good. So people will be brought to account. But getting back to this Financial Review article about China, they've marked off about, say, 6 or 7 products, including wine and coal and barley, that they're basically putting a ban on. Now, they're not allowed to do this through the World Trade Organization, so they're playing funny buggers and trying to be elusive and saying, no, we're not really doing it. But it's obvious that they're trying to do payback because we've given them a hard time. Personally, I would like to see us hit them where they hurt and cut the iron ore exports, because they really do need our iron ore. And while we keep supplying them with iron ore, they won't take us seriously. I'd like us to find other markets for iron ore like India, and I'd like us to reduce our exposure to China. I think it's good that we have reduced our exposure to China. Personally, I think we've got to learn to live without them to a large extent. I think the world's coming to that conclusion. Even Europe is not overly happy with what China's doing. So, and I mean, it could actually, if Xi Jinping is still in power, I think he's the most dangerous man on earth, and I think we could have a war. Especially, the irony is with Biden. Biden is a bit of a warmonger compared to Trump. Trump has been a peacemaker, but the new administration, you just watch, they'll come up with some excuse for some war somewhere. You can almost guarantee it. So we're back to the normal in Washington, where the swamp rules, and it's really sad because, you know, one thing about Trump, in my opinion, is the guy's got authenticity, and I love that. Biden is a total phony. He's corrupt and he won't last the distance anyway. He's got the mental faculty to actually do the job. So for all we know, Kamala Harris might be actually pulling the strings behind the curtains, or his advisors will be basically running the show. But Biden is just a pathetic figurehead, and I don't see how anybody could get infused about this guy. I think he's going to be more and more on the nose as time goes on, if he actually does take the presidency. And of course, there's no guarantee of that, but he's certainly got a 50-50 chance, I'd say, at the moment. So that's frightening enough for me. It's so sad. You know, what is so bad about having someone who's authentic in the White House? It seems as if it's a sin. You know, Trump is warts and all. He's a real person, and I really like that. And I've never thought he was perfect by any stretch, but authenticity is important to me. And I think he has the best wishes for the American people, whereas a lot of people just mouth those sort of sentiments. In the case of Biden, it's more about Biden, or what's best for Biden, and lining his pockets. That seems to be his motivation, in my opinion. So, you know, to have a real sincere leader is such a luxury these days. So, oh well, we'll see. It's a beautiful day today. I'm holding up okay. Been feeling a bit better since midway through last week. So I'll probably be sweating like a pig when I'm walking back, but it's nice that I've actually been able to do a bit of a video. And that's amazing, the breeze is not strong. It's actually quite nice today. So it's a nice place to live. It's a pity about things like the youth crime and noisy neighbours, but you know, we are living in the real world and it's not perfect. Yes, that's patently obvious to most people, especially after the recent election, both here and in Queensland. It's certainly not perfect for me. I don't really know if it's going to affect me much. But if you're working, I think it will. Queensland's already got the highest unemployment rate in Australia, so that doesn't bode well for the future, especially considering you're going to have a government that's pretty tired, been in power a long time, two terms, that's 8 years, and if they change horses midway through this term, which apparently is on the cards, will go to their smarmy looking health minister, will take over the leadership reins. I think he'll be extremely unpopular. He just annoys me, just the look of him annoys me. I mean, well, like I say, state politics affects me to some degree, but not major. What the US election affects everybody, and that's why I was very despondent when those votes turned around suspiciously. Please consider subscribing to my channel if you think there's anything there of use to you, or entertainment or whatever. And either do that or give me a thumbs up, or if you're feeling really energetic, do both. That'd be great. But please don't ignore me. That's the worst thing you can do on YouTube, is be ignored.